Hi, how you doing? I just want you to know I want to begin this talk with something that feels true across every healing journey that I've ever witnessed. Because there comes a moment when we realize that we're not just experiencing our emotions, we're actually in a relationship with them. That's when we stop fighting them, when we feel like, you know, we're not drowning in them either, we're not running from them, but when we actually have a relationship with our moments. And in that moment, even if it's brief, even if it's tiny, there's a sign of emotional maturity emerging from emotional survival. And what I'm going to talk about today, and what we're going to explore, is that little shift, that tiny little shift. And not as a technique, and it's not something that we perform, but as this little quiet little evolution on how you can meet yourself. Because this is the point of your recovery where emotions stop being threats and start becoming messengers. When your inner world stops being something that you brace against and start being something that you can actually listen to. And when you listen, you start to listen to yourself with compassion, with strength, and clarity. So settle in, make yourself comfortable. You don't have to feel calm to watch this video or to get the most out of it. You don't even need to feel like you're ready for it just yet. That's fine. Just bring a version of you that's here right now. That's enough. And explain why integration of our emotions matters. Because every emotion you feel, every surge, whatever that emotion is, whether it's fear, or maybe you get a rise of anger once in a while, or even a wave of sadness, it isn't just a feeling. I want you to see it as something else. It's just information. Because your emotional system is an ancient system. And you know what? It's actually older than you. It's older than your thoughts. It's older than your beliefs. It's older than the person you were when you learned those coping strategies in the past. And for a lot of you, our emotional system had to grow up way too fast. So you didn't get to have emotions. You had to manage everyone else's. And what happens in those environments is you didn't get to express your emotions freely. So you had different coping strategies. You had to learn to hide them just to keep the peace. And you didn't get to understand your emotions better. You learned instead to judge your own emotions, to suppress them. And that makes sense. It makes sense. It really does. So it makes sense if emotions feel really big right now and overwhelming. It makes sense if they feel like really loud sometimes. And it also makes sense if they feel like they're always running the show. You're jumping from one emotion to another. Because there is a way to turn things around, to bring emotions to the surface, but to do it in a healthier way, right? You don't heal emotions by silencing them. You heal emotions by integrating them. And just so you understand, what does integration actually mean? Well, I want you to think of your emotions as if they were like parts of you, and they all had a language and they all want to speak. What you're doing is giving them a reason to speak because you're going to be there to listen. And we'll notice what happens when you listen. Curiosity. It's your body doesn't brace. Your nervous system doesn't have to protect you from your own inner world, from your own emotion. I also want to understand that, integration of emotion is not perfection. Integration is about a relationship. And it's a relationship with you. And if you think about all relationships, none of them are smooth. So it makes sense that maybe the relationship that you have with yourself can be difficult at times. So I want to ask you something that you may have never asked yourself before. Who am I when I'm not reacting? And think about that for a second. Who am I when I'm not reacting? Because the truth is, many of us built our entire personality around survival. And in order to live in those survival states, what happens is we become something in order to survive those environments. We can become, the calm one. We can become the fixer. We can become, the resilient one or the responsible one. Or maybe we be the invisible one. Or we act like the tough one or the funny one. Right? Or the one that never needs anything. Or the one that absorbs the energy of others all the time. Those roles that we play, they aren't random. And they grew out of emotional necessity. And they're there for a reason. They're there to protect you. Those roles protect you. But those roles are not your identity. They're adaptations that you needed to put on in order to survive those environments. And integration means, gently separating. And it's basically yourself, and that's self with a capital S, from your survival patterns. And it means the parts of you that fight or flee or freeze or fawn or shut down or explode or go numb, or the ones that overfunction all the time, or the ones that just get so overwhelmed that you just collapse inwards. And when they show up, we can kind of notice that they're there. And we can change the dialogue that we have with ourselves. We can say, "Hi, I see you. I see why you showed up. I see you're doing your very best to protect me. And also, I want you to know that I'm here now too." And this is where emotional adulthood begins. And it's not the kind of adulthood that's defined by age. That's not what I'm talking about. It's adulthood defined by presence. So I'm going to talk about emotional maturity and what that is. In order to do that, there's going to be 4 shifts that we need to do. Emotional maturity isn't about staying calm all the time. And it's not becoming untriggered or untriggerable. And it's not about losing your cool. Emotional maturity is about the way that you relate to your emotions when they arise. And when that happens, you're going to notice there are 4 key shifts that are going to take place. And the first shift I'm going to talk about is moving from reaction to recognition. So in shift 1, in survival mode, emotions hit fast and they hit hard. Maturity begins when we can just kind of pause, even if it's for a second, and we say, "Oh, I'm activated." Just noticing that moment, a tiny little pause, becomes that little birthplace of choice, able to make different choices. It's the space where your nervous system stops running the show and your wise mind begins to guide it. Then we can move on to shift number 2. It's where we move from judgment into curiosity. Because most of us learn to judge our own emotions. What do we say to ourselves? What's the inner dialogue? I shouldn't feel this way, or I'm overreacting, or I should be stronger than this, or even, judgmental, like, why am I always like this? Or what's wrong with me? You know what that is? That's judgment. So let's just change that dialogue, change it just a tiny little bit. We're going to bring in something else. We're going to bring in a little bit of curiosity. Because curiosity sounds completely different. Curiosity feels this intense emotions. Is, "Hey, hi, man, what am I feeling?" And then in that little pause, we can say, "Oh, there's an emotion here. What's it trying to show me?" And be a little bit more curious. Where do I feel this in my body? Is it in my chest? Is it in my throat? Is it in my stomach? Where is it? And you're going to realize that that's not the first time that you've ever felt this way. You felt like this before, and before that, and before that. When was the first time that you felt this way? You can see how long these emotions can be stuck in our systems for. And then you can also ask yourself, what part of me is speaking right now? Is it me, or is it that emotion? Or is that intensity? Because here's what curiosity does. Curiosity softens our nervous system. What does judgment do? Judgment tightens it. So let's move more towards curiosity than we do towards judgment. Just doing that little tiny improvement, our lives get better overall. Why? Because curiosity opens that little door to healing. What does judgment do? Judgment just slams that door shut. So lean into curiosity. What am I feeling? Where is it? How long has it been here? What's it trying to tell me? And then we go to the third shift, number 3. We go from suppression towards integration. Because when emotions arise, most people try to do one of two things. One is suppress them, and the other is, express them impulsively. Integration is neither. Integration sounds more like, I can feel this without drowning in it. It's the wise mind that says, emotion, hi, you belong here. But you know what? You might be a bit small to be steering for me. Can you just give me a little bit of space while I figure this out? And that tiny little space is where we can start to see more options appearing. And we can move on to the fourth shift. We go from isolation to co-regulation. And here's something we all need to know. You are not designed to regulate alone. No human nervous system is. And healing happens when you allow yourself to be supported. Not just by, breath work and breathing exercises or repeating mantras or spending hours in meditation, but by actually connecting with other people. And here's the trick, like co-regulation is safely delivered through how? How do we get that? Through tone is one, presence, warmth, attunement, and steadiness. All really important traits to help us integrate. Because emotional maturity isn't about becoming independent. It's actually about becoming interdependent, just in healthier ways. And here's another way to think about this. I want you to imagine your emotions as a river. A river's meant to move. It's meant to flow. It's meant to surge. It's meant to be in calm states. It's meant to rise again. And you know what? Your rational mind and your wise mind, these are the river banks, the parts that keep the emotions in the middle. And if we didn't have those banks, well, what happens? The river just floods. And without for floods, and then there is no water. The banks just your life grows dry and lifeless. And when emotion and reason, when they actually work together, when the river and the banks work together, feelings suddenly have a direction. Thoughts, they have heart. And your behaviors and your choices come from a place of intention. And reactions become responses. That's integration. And this is actually emotional intelligence being played out in real life. Because this is the beginning of self-leadership. And it happens every time that you pause, notice your breath, and then listen. Every time that you can do that, you strengthen your riverbank. And every time you allow an emotion to speak without overriding it, you know what happens? The river starts to run a little bit clearer. And every time that you stay present for one more second than you could last time, your inner world becomes safer for you to visit. And then when you repeat this process with the next emotion, and the one after that, and the one after that, you build stronger and stronger banks. That's what emotional intelligence is. So I want to try one small practice with you, if you're willing. And, I want you to you don't have to make sense of it as we're kind of doing it. But, wherever you are, I just want you to notice where you are. And I want you to just kind of settle it. And I want you to notice what's happening inwards. Not deeply, not intensity, but just gently. I want you to imagine your eyes are turning inside. See what's there. I want you to bring in a memory or a feeling that you experienced recently. Nothing sudden, nothing huge, but something recent. And maybe you were irritated an hour ago, or maybe you felt sadness a couple days ago, or some anxiety, or a tinge of guilt or anger. Don't choose anything overwhelming, just something present and something recent. Now you're just going to ask yourself 2 questions. What is this emotion? Label it, give it a word. And then notice, where am I storing it? Where is it in my body? Because here's the important part. The point here is not to interpret it, not to fix it. Just notice that it's here. Hello, emotion. Hi. Now I want you to imagine that beside you sits a wiser version of you. And this version of you has lived through all your storms, learned all your patterns, who's walked through all your life experiences and knows how to guide you through it. And you can let that version of you speak. When you think about that emotion and where it is in your body, ask the wiser mind, what would my wise mind say to me right now? And then pause. A message may arise. It might only be a sentence. And it could just be reassurance. Say, hey, you know what? This makes sense. Or it's like, you know what? You're safe enough right now. Or it could be a message of just saying, hey, maybe we should slow down for a little while. Or maybe it's just sitting next to you and saying, you know what? I'm going to stay here with you. Or it could just be reassurance saying, don't rush this. It's okay. Because this emotion isn't a danger. It actually has a message. Whatever comes, I just want you to let it land. I want you to notice what the wise mind feels like. Even if it's faint, even if it's like way off in the distance. That's the voice that we're going to be strengthening. Because that's your wise mind. And that is integration right there in real time. You may actually find, because there's so much information here, that I did go through it pretty quickly, you may have to watch this video several times, and that's fine. I totally understand that, and that's okay. But I want you to know that healing is not about becoming, unemotional. It's not about burying your feelings. Healing is about becoming emotionally sovereign. To be in a place where you can have emotions and able to manage them when they arise. Because they do rise, and they do crest, and they do settle. The point of healing is not to suppress your emotions better. It's not. Healing is different. And there are all sorts of feeds out there if you're looking for plenty of feeds for, emotional suppression and 3 easy steps. I don't have that content here. Because I'm here to help you understand the patterns and then learn from your own patterns, then help you integrate your experiences and help you live with more awareness from understanding your experiences. Right? Because you're here to understand your emotions, and you're not here to fear your emotions. You're here to develop a relationship with yourself who has emotions. You're not here to be constantly ruled by survival patterns. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Those are survival patterns. And in survival, you basically have 4 options and reactions to every situation. What I want you to start to realize slowly over time is you're here to reclaim authorship of your inner world, to have thoughts and experiences, to know that they're there, and try to live more aligned with who you are, and less with who you had to be, those old patterns that took place. Because it's not done all at once. It's not. This is a process that's done over time, and every step towards emotional intelligence brings you closer to yourself. Not the self that you had to become in order to survive, but the self you were always meant to be. So take your time and be gentle with yourself. And I want you to remember your emotions are not obstacles, they're doorways back into yourself. Instead of turning away from them, notice what happens when we just shift and turn towards them with curiosity, with wonder, with an intent to make ourselves feel better. It's an important shift. I do hope this video is helpful for you. And if you're not already subscribed, please do so now, because it does make a big difference for getting this content to more people who need it. And if you'd like to join one of my regular live talks that I host, there's a link to register for the next one below. You're free to attend. And if you come to the next one, I'd be happy to answer your questions live there. And if you'd like to go any further, I also have programs and other support on my website. But for now, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for watching.